Hello, this is Corey with Low Altitude Aerial, and I have gone and broken my Immersion 5800 Duo. Now what had happened was basically in some manner, even despite keeping this inside of a Pelican case, one of my antenna outputs was broken off. As a matter of fact, it was this one right here. You can see how far out that this normally sticks out. Sorry, I'm trying to work this with a couple different cameras here. I'm not sure if that's going to focus properly, but you can see how far out this usually extends. I had an antenna that was sticking off, and even despite being inside of a Pelican case, there was a torsional load put on it, and this ended up snapping off inside of there. So what I've gone and done is gone ahead and taken out. There's two screws which correlate with these two holes right here. So both of these have been taken out at this point in time. Let's go ahead and remove the card. And you can see on here where the contacts are, the appropriate contacts anyways. Got these three, and then on the back side there are two additional ones. And on this one you can see where I've the actual antenna lead still has one remaining. Of course, and this has been torn off completely. The copper's been removed completely from the board. And then I've got the same thing across the top. The issue is really going to become this center contact right here. And hopefully this camera is focusing, because that's going to be the small and the harder manner. The more challenging of this repair, making that contact right there in between the new antenna lead and the board. These are identical. The only real difference being that this new one is longer, and I'll give you an example of what I'm using and why I'm using it. I've already gone ahead and put a nut on the bottom of this, and the idea is, because this one currently, I'll use this one because it's going to work a little bit easier. When these fit on there, they're really just they're only there via these 5 contacts, and so it doesn't give you a whole lot of strength. And just kind of, this one of course is, I'm going to make this repair, but you can see on this one possibly the board wiggles inside of there, and you can see how large the opening is that surrounds. You can see how large that opening is and how much that wiggles. It's not ideal in my eye. So what's going to happen for my repair, I'm going to replace that shorter one, put a longer one, and I've already put this nut on there. At this point in time, you can kind of imagine this is going to go through, and you see where this is going. There's going to be the contacts going to be on the inside with one nut. I'm going to put another nut on the outside. And once we get to this point, go ahead and remove that. Now this, when it's connected for both of these, now this is going to have, it's going to be tightened down with these nuts, and then at that point in time we have these screws that are going to go straight in there and make this weaker contact become part of the structure. And provided there's not any kind of interference or something from the antenna, maybe that's why it wasn't done. I'll learn about this when it's all said and done. If that is the case, well, we'll be back to square one, but I don't see why the case would cause an issue. It's going to be insulated around the outside. This circuit board isn't going to be conductive as far as to the case, so I wouldn't believe it to cause an issue. And even then, if it was contacting, you should be able to see that these outsides would already be possibly contacting the board anyways. So the reason I'm making this repair is Immersion, and this is to their credit, did offer to repair or replace. I don't know what the outcome actually would have been, but they did offer to make for $25 as well as for shipping for both directions. They were going to go ahead and put on or replace this board. After watching those videos on YouTube, I realized that it looked easy enough that I could probably do it. Having built quite a few multi-rotors and airplanes and becoming well-versed in soldering and electronics in the hobby just in general, I decided to go ahead and undertake this, if for nothing else, as a learning and opportunity. This Duo, I've just noticed on a couple of the websites, has come down quite a bit in price. Not so much that I feel that it's cheap enough that I could just go ahead and do this, but I feel that the learning opportunity is going to be advantageous, and I may as well give it a try. My concern here while I'm doing this is going to be not overheating this board. There are not any sensitive electronics in this vicinity on either the top or the bottom, but I would believe that if I overheated this, that maybe it would then keep working that short further up into the area that I cannot reach, cannot get into and access. So I'm gonna have to be very careful and diligent. As you can see, I've got a couple small screwdrivers. I'm hoping that works out so you can see that. I'm more concerned right now with scraping through the copper than I am as far as rubbing it off with this. Obviously that wire wheel is not very precise, but I don't see any issues with touching anything over here and potentially causing any damage along this face of this card. I could see possibly if I got in further. So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 as being the points in which this is going to hold this on here. Worst case scenario, I will make a jumper between these two. Now my concern obviously would be is this causing issues, and what I would then end up doing is just do some testing and find out, am I getting stronger signal from one or the other? This being a receiver and not a transmitter, I'm not worried about it burning out. So that really is the extent of my concern in that respect. All right, I'm back, and my initial impression is that worked amazingly well. The videos I had seen on YouTube, people were sitting there and scratching and scratching and scratching, and it just kind of looked like a semi-spotty idea. Hopefully this is coming into focus enough. It appears through this small viewfinder that it is. And once I get it back there, it looks as though that is going to work out perfectly. You can very clearly see that center contact. So now I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process on the back side of this around this one, and you can see where I made this a little bit wider. The reason I did that is I want to have a good large area in which to make that repair. Obviously I don't have that in the center, but that's what my intent was. And actually, you know what, just for an example, I'm going to go ahead and do the repair on the bottom on this one side, so you can kind of see, if you don't have this tool as an option, where you might end up. I do expect that I will make this repair ultimately with the rotary tool as well, and I'm doing it on this side in case it doesn't work out, because that's where I ultimately want the repair at. I don't necessarily believe that to look, you know, that doesn't look bad. It really doesn't. I do like that. It was a little simpler. It's clean. I am going to go ahead and use my rotary tool perpendicular in this manner. You'll see it. I'm going to go ahead and make that repair as well with this rotary tool. All right, I believe that'll work. Just for the record, I think the rotary tool worked out excellent. And should you not have that option, I would believe that a screwdriver would be a very close second. I've already had my rotary tool turned on, and it's probably a little bit warmer than what I want it to. I'm going to go ahead and put it at 350 degrees Celsius. And initially, I'm going to go ahead and remove this existing component leg while I have it out and available. I can see it heating up, and there is the component. I like flux, so I'll go ahead and flux this. So here we are. I'm gonna go ahead and start with seeing what I can get with that center one. And why am I going to do that? Well, just because that's going to be the hardest one. If this doesn't work out, this is going to be a short video. So that might work. Actually, I've just identified that that middle contact is not going to actually touch. So that is going to, one thing I hadn't discussed yet, one of the concerns is not having the proper, I'm not sure if it's dB or continuity, if there's going to be some kind of a loss there, especially if I have to use a wire. But we'll figure that out. So I'll be right back. Alright. So we're back. Giving the camera a little bit of time to cool down. I've got my fluke as well as a set of pliers I grabbed for no reason, and I have some strippers and cutters. And what I've done is gone ahead and took a little length of wire and just cut the shielding back and then tinned it so that I have a little more solid piece here. I almost think it might be easier to attach that to the actual replacement component. But we'll see how this all works out. And with my my fluke, what I'm definitely going to be doing is checking for continuity between the new repair and any of the other circuit boards in the vicinity. And I'm lucky enough I'll have something I can double check it against. So without further ado, let's see where this gets us. Alright, I don't know if you were able to see what I did there. I was kind of thinking faster than I could speak it out. That little jumper that I had made, similar to that one, as soon as I touched it with the tip, it attracted itself to the tip and was not interested in it at all with the board. So then I just went ahead and got it nice and hot, and let me bring it up here so this maybe makes a little more sense. Using this screwdriver as an example, I attached it to the front of where I need to make the contact, and then actually held it with this, and then removed the soldering tip, and it has now it's attached. And as I said, I'm going to use this fluke. Oh, by the way, that was a shameless plug, fluke, if you're feeling like sending me some kind of very expensive equipment. I've got a couple fluke multimeters. My stepfather gave me my first one and fell in love with it. And never again will I use one of those inexpensive joke versions. Just have this on continuity. It's probably a more technical term for it. I like hearing beeps. So the concern here is going to be is my lead. I want to quit wiggling. Alright, no continuity, no continuity, no continuity. And we do have continuity there, which is right where we want to have continuity. And I'm sorry, I know my hand was blocking that on the camera. What I did is, as I described earlier, this center point on the RF card coincides with this center lead. And this one might here be a better example. This lead, which is the center pin, coincides with this. All I've done is duplicated that over here. I'm also going to take a moment. I don't believe that it will. I wouldn't think that this is that this is making contact on the bottom either. So nothing and nothing. All right, perfect. Now here's where we're gonna make our money. The only issue I'm directly seeing right now is that, and actually I'll come back to that here in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and you can see how this one is flush against the board. I'm going to make this one flush as well. And on the back side of this, because it's already contacting that existing pad, I'm going to go ahead and solder that. And actually, before I get too far, and I am luckily thinking ahead in this respect, let me make sure it's going to fit through this hole. Actually, I'll go ahead and solder it first, but we are going to, all I'm doing off camera is removing that one that I had on there for demonstration. So let me go ahead and make sure this thing is going to fit through that hole. Get my flux out. Let's get our heat gate. Getting warm already. Okay. That's going to be just a temporary repair. I know it's not pretty. Don't judge me on that. I'll come back and fix it. All I've done is just tack, if you will, tack weld. I'm more of a big component kind of guy. Used to build off-road trucks and whatnot. So everything for me is tack welds and whatnot. So you can see here how ugly that initial repair is. Let's see if I can get any closer. I think that's in focus. So here's what the concern is. I believe these to be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and use that other piece that I had made, and using this solder to represent it, I'm going to lay it right there, and that's going to then flow in between the two. Here it is. So this little piece that I have extra, I'll cut this down a little bit more, and you probably can see that. Get this back in focus. You can see where that is going to be another jump. As I said, this isn't the prettiest thing. It actually probably worked out a little bit better that it wasn't completely straight. What I'm thinking though I might be able to do is, after I get these outside ones done, I was thinking I might try and lift that, but my concern is lifting the copper off that board or damaging it further up where I can't get to it. At this point, there's no way that there's going to be solder making that bridge, and even if it did bridge, I can fix it. I don't know enough about these sensitive electronics to know if there is a way for that frequency to get in between the two. The other option I have is to try and lay a screwdriver around here, acting as a heat sink, while I try and heat that up with a tip and lift and move it away from there. That might be what happens. That sounds doable. So expect to see that as I'm working through this. I think I may have made that repair off camera. I apologize. I apologize if that worked out to being off camera. Make sure this is in focus. Ooh, I didn't realize this is going to be a bigger one right here. As far as this one may take some building up. So we're going to do a little bit of building up and a little bit of not building up with those jumpers. So Okay, look at that worked. No, it had worked. That should be more than enough. Screwdriver as heatsink, and see if I can get this thing to move over. Well, it didn't really move, but put a little bit more solder on here. Well, that part moved. Wasn't exactly the part I was wanting to move. Alright, let's see where we are with this. Come on. So as you may or may not have seen, that wire did move in the area of concern. So we're not taking any of this stuff for granted. I'm going to have to make sure that I do not have any continuity between any of these other components. I'm going to look at this off camera for a moment. I think it looks fine. I think it would look fine. There you go. It did shift a little bit in this direction off to camera right, but I think that it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna go ahead and reduplicate my continuity checks. All right. So no continuity. That is what we're looking for. No continuity. Should have continuity here. None there. None here. Yes. Yes. Alright. Well, let me make sure I got continuity between here and the ultimately desired location. Shoot, boys. I think it's going to work. I may not be a smart man, but I do know how to. I don't know what I know how to do, but I do know how to do it. Alright, I'm back. What I've gone ahead and done is I have a benchtop power supply, so I went ahead and got one of my bleeds out for some of my immersion equipment, and I will be honest with you, I have a ridiculous amount of immersion equipment. If they should sponsor me. I should be a racer or whatever the heck that whole stuff works. Here's one of my other my little FPV components. I think I've got like 3 or 4 of these 600 milliwatts. So I'm going to go ahead and use this, and the intent is going to be to move in between these 2 different patch antennas to make sure that they're working. As a matter of fact, that patch antenna, I'm sorry, this patch antenna, and then that helixial cannon, I think is what IB Crazy calls it. So, but they're definitely focused. So I would believe that these should be going between the 2 as I'm moving around. So I am off to the camera right, camera left, camera right, camera left. So it appears as though this is working. Is this absolutely inclusive? No, I'm not going to take credit and say that this is absolutely inclusive, but it does appear as though it's working. This is what I had hoped to see. So hopefully those lights are giving you the indication as well, and you can hear it chirping as it's jumping between the 2 of them. So looks like this may have been successful, and we'll go ahead and see where else this takes us.